It was a misty autumn evening when I found myself drawn to the welcoming glow of the McDonald's sign. The bustling sounds of the city had begun to quiet down as the night settled in, casting a veil of tranquility over the world. The golden arches stood as a beacon of comfort amidst the darkness, promising a quick fix to my hunger pangs. As I approached the entrance, a gust of wind rustled the fallen leaves at my feet, sending a shiver down my spine. The air carried a hint of rain, and the distant rumble of thunder hinted at an approaching storm. I pushed open the glass door, and the familiar scent of greasy fast food wafted over me, momentarily overriding my unease. Inside, the fluorescent lights illuminated the space, casting a harsh contrast against the encroaching darkness outside. The chatter of customers mingled with the sizzle of burgers on the grill, creating an oddly comforting symphony. The vibrant colors of the menu board seemed to promise a brief escape from reality, a fleeting moment of indulgence. As I approached the counter, I noticed the cashier's tired eyes, marked by hours of serving customers and dealing with the daily grind. The employee's name tag read Sarah, and her forced smile seemed almost out of place. There was a heaviness in the air, a sense that something lay beneath the surface of this seemingly ordinary evening. My stomach rumbled impatiently as I scanned the menu, mentally weighing the options. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, their hum blending with the low murmur of conversation. Behind the counter, the employees moved with a practiced efficiency, assembling orders and managing the ceaseless flow of customers. With my order placed, I found a corner booth sinking into the cracked vinyl seat. The tabletop was worn, bearing the scars of countless meals that had been devoured there. A flickering candle encased in glass stood in the center of the table, its flame dancing as if eager to tell a story of its own. I gazed out of the large windows, watching the raindrops trace erratic patterns on the glass. The neon lights of the surrounding shops cast colorful reflections on the wet pavement, lending an almost dreamlike quality to the scene. The rhythmic tap, tap, tap of raindrops created a hypnotic backdrop to the restaurant's symphony. As I unwrapped my meal, the warm aroma of fries mingled with the scent of freshly cooked beef. The first bite was satisfyingly familiar, the taste of familiarity serving as a comforting anchor in a world that seemed to be shifting in unpredictable ways. Little did I know that this ordinary evening would mark the beginning of an extraordinary descent into the unknown. With my tray of food in hand, I found solace in a corner booth, the vinyl seat cool against my skin. The restaurant's fluorescent lights cast an eerie glow, creating deep shadows that seemed to dance to an unsteady rhythm. The distant hum of the ice machine and the low murmur of the radio added to the unsettling ambience. I unwrapped my burger, hoping that the familiar taste would ground me in reality. But the first bite held an odd texture, a strange sponginess that defied explanation. My stomach churned, my appetite waning under the oppressive atmosphere. Glancing around, I noticed that the employees moved with a subdued urgency, their actions hurried yet deliberately. My attention was abruptly drawn to a scene unfolding near the counter. A young employee, her name tag reading Emma, stood face to face with the manager. Their voices were tense, their whispers almost inaudible over the soft hiss of the deep fryers. Emma's eyes held a mixture of fear and frustration, her gestures emphasizing the urgency of whatever conversation had ensued. Unable to ignore my curiosity, I set my food aside and approached the counter, feigning a casual demeanor as I pretended to study the menu above. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught snippets of their conversation. They spoke of after hours, the last incident, and the warnings. Whatever they were discussing was clearly unsettling, their cryptic words triggering a growing sense of unease within me. I sidled closer, my heart racing as I strained to catch more of their hushed conversation. Emma's voice trembled as she spoke of things moving on their own and whispers echoing in empty spaces. The manager's stern expression remained unwavering, his words laced with a tone of warning. I had a sinking feeling that whatever they were discussing was far more than just employee gossip. As their conversation reached a crescendo, I made the unfortunate mistake of locking eyes with the manager. His gaze held mine for a moment, freezing me in place as a shiver crawled down my spine. There was something unnerving about his eyes, something ancient, as if they had witnessed far more than a typical fast food manager should. With a sudden jolt, I tore my gaze away and pretended to study the menu once more. Emma's eyes darted toward me for an instant, a flicker of something passing between us. An unspoken acknowledgement of the unsettling truths being shared. As I returned to my booth, a heavy feeling of dread clung to me like a second skin. The ambiance had shifted, the familiar surroundings transformed into something otherworldly. The dim lighting seemed to deepen the shadows, and the air was charged with an energy that I couldn't quite grasp. I picked up my food, but my appetite had completely vanished. The unease that had been lurking beneath the surface had now taken hold, gnawing at my every thought. I couldn't escape the sense that this McDonald's held secrets hidden just beneath the surface, waiting to be unveiled in the silent hours of the night. The once familiar sounds of sizzling patties and chattering employees had given way to an eerie silence that hung heavy in the air. The kitchen, which was usually a hive of activity, now stood empty and motionless, as if time itself had frozen in anticipation of some impending doom. The dim, flickering lights cast long, ominous shadows that danced along the walls like spectral entities. I took another bite of my burger, attempting to maintain a facade of normalcy despite the growing unease settling in the pit of my stomach. My eyes darted around the desolate dining area, my senses heightened by an unnerving awareness that I was no longer alone. Whispers, faint and barely audible, seemed to echo through the air, as if carried by a ghostly breeze that brushed against my skin like icy fingers. As I turned my attention back to my meal, I noticed something odd. The salt shaker on my tray had moved slightly, its position shifted by invisible force. A chill ran down my spine as I considered the possibility that I was not alone in the booth. A quick glance around confirmed my fears. The normally bustling restaurant was devoid of customers, yet the sense of being watched persisted. A gust of wind swept through the dining area, rustling the napkins on the nearby tables. It carried with it a faint, otherworldly scent that was a bizarre mixture of stale fries and something far more sinister. I felt my heart race, each beat reverberating in my chest like the distant echo of a drum in a long-forgotten ritual. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end and a cold sweat formed on my brow. I stared at the entrance, half expecting something to emerge from the shadows. And then, as if summoned by my thoughts, I saw movement. A figure, shrouded in darkness, stood near the entrance. Its form was indistinct, wavering like a mirage, yet the sense of its presence was undeniable. It seemed to feed off the ambient darkness, growing taller and more defined with each passing second. Time seemed to slow as the figure advanced, its footsteps silent against the linoleum floor. Its eyes, if they could be called that, glinted with an otherworldly malevolence. I could feel its gaze bore into me, as if peering directly into my soul. Panic gripped me in a vice-like hold, rendering me incapable of movement or speech. My heart pounded in my chest like a drum, and my breath caught in my throat. I wanted to flee, to escape the clutches of this unearthly presence, but my limbs felt like lead, rooted to the spot by an invisible force. The figure drew nearer, its movements fluid and unnatural, as if it were defying the laws of physics themselves. And then the figure spoke, or at least it attempted to. Its voice was a chilling whisper that seemed to emanate from all directions at once. The words were unintelligible, a language that sounded like the wind rustling through the leaves of a long-forgotten forest. Each syllable carried with it an aura of ancient secrets and unfathomable dread. As the figure drew closer, I could make out its features, or lack thereof. Its face was a shifting canvas of darkness and ethereal light, its features morphing and contorting as if it were a reflection in a funhouse mirror. Its eyes, hollow and empty, seemed to peer directly into the depths of my soul, dredging up fears and anxieties I had long buried. I could feel a primal fear clawing at the edges of my consciousness, a fear that transcended the mundane and delved deep into the realm of the unknown. It was a fear that spoke of forgotten nightmares and ancient horrors, a fear that resonated with the collective terrors of humanity's darkest moments. With every step the figure took, the air grew colder and the atmosphere grew more oppressive. The very fabric of reality seemed to warp and shift in response to its presence, distorting the edges of my vision and creating an otherworldly haze that enveloped everything in a surreal glow. In that moment, I realized that I was not merely encountering a strange phenomenon or a trick of the mind. I was face to face with a force beyond comprehension, a presence that defied all logical explanation. And as it drew closer, its presence became suffocating, as if the very air had been tainted by its malevolent energy. I could feel a scream building in my throat, the primal instinct to flee, warring with the overwhelming terror that had rendered me paralyzed. The whispers grew louder, their words echoing in my mind like a chorus of tortured soul. The figure's hollow eyes bore into me, and I knew that I stood at the precipice of something unspeakable, something that would forever alter the course of my reality. As I sat there, trapped in the grip of this supernatural nightmare, I could only wonder what horrors awaited me in the minutes and hours that lay ahead. The figure drew closer, its form shifting and distorting like a specter from another dimension. And as its whisper grew louder, I could feel my sanity slipping, inch by agonizing inch, into the abyss of the unknown. I stood frozen in the dimly lit dining area, my breath caught in my throat as the figure drew closer. Its form was a grotesque distortion of humanity, a twisted amalgamation of shadows and emptiness. Its disheveled clothing hung loosely from its frame, tattered remnants of a life long gone. Its eyes, two pools of inky blackness, fixed on me with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. As it advanced, the air grew colder, carrying with it a spectral chill that seeped into my bones. The restaurant's familiar surroundings seemed to warp and contort around the entity, as if it existed outside the bounds of reality. The very air seemed to hum with a tension that set my nerves on edge. The entity's lips moved, forming words that echoed within the recesses of my mind. Yet the language it spoke was unlike anything I had ever heard. It was a symphony of whispers, a cacophony of voices both malevolent and mournful. I strained to understand its message, but the words eluded comprehension, slipping through my grasp like water through clenched fingers. Fear rooted me to the spot, my mind a whirlwind of terror and confusion. The entity's presence was suffocating, an oppressive weight that threatened to consume me. Its gaze bore into me, probing the depths of my soul as if searching for something hidden, something I couldn't even fathom. Amid the maelstrom of fear, a surge of determination rose within me. I steeled myself and mustered the courage to ask the entity what it wanted. Its response was a whisper that pierced through my very being, carrying with it a chilling resonance that reverberated in my bone. It spoke of forgotten desires and unfulfilled dreams, of a hunger that transcended the boundaries of life and death. As the entity's words echoed within me, a realization dawned. This was not a mere ghost, but something far older, far more malevolent. It was a specter of darkness that fed on the fragments of lost souls, drawing sustenance from the depths of their despair. Its intentions were as inscrutable as the abyss, and I was trapped in its grasp, a plaything for forces beyond my comprehension. With every passing second, my fear deepened, my sense of self unraveling like a thread pulled too taut. The very fabric of reality seemed to fray around me, the boundaries between the known and the unknowable dissolving into a nightmarish haze. In the midst of this cosmic dread, I felt an overwhelming urge to escape, to break free from the clutches of this eldritch entity. Summoning all my remaining strength, I tore my gaze away from the figure's hollow eyes and stumbled backward. My heart pounded in my chest, the blood rushing in my ears as I fought to distance myself from the presence that threatened to consume me. With every step, the dining area stretched and warped, a twisted labyrinth that seemed to mock my efforts to escape. As I neared the exit, the air grew warmer, the ambient sounds of the outside world seeping into my consciousness like a lifeline. With a final burst of desperation, I pushed through the restaurant's doors and emerged into the cool night air. Gasping for breath, I leaned against the brick exterior, my pulse racing as I stared back at the McDonald's that had become a chamber of horrors. The entity still stood within, its form a silhouette against the dimly lit interior. Its eyes, twin voids of malevolence, remained fixed on me, its whisper carried by the wind that rustled my hair. I tore my gaze away, feeling as if even a lingering glance would bind me to its power once more. As I walked away, the feeling of being watched lingered, a chilling reminder of the terrors I had witnessed. The night had forever altered my perception of the world, a stark reminder that within the mundane, the extraordinary and the malevolent could lurk just beneath the surface, waiting to be unleashed upon the unwary. The air outside was a welcome contrast to the stifling atmosphere within. Cool night breezes rustled the leaves of nearby trees, carrying with them the scent of damp earth and distant traffic. I stumbled out of the restaurant, my heart racing like a drumbeat in my chest, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The street lights illuminated the path ahead, casting eerie shadows on the pavement. As I took in gulps of the crisp air, my gaze flickered back to the restaurant's entrance. The windows, previously tinted with an inviting glow, now appeared as dark and foreboding as a portal to another world. My eyes were drawn to the figure still standing there, its form a mere silhouette against the dimly lit interior. The entity's hollow eyes seemed to lock onto mine, and a shiver ran down my spine. Its presence felt like a weighty fog, tendrils of its essence reaching out towards me. I couldn't shake the feeling that even though I had physically left the restaurant, a part of me remained tethered to that sinister place. Taking a hesitant step away from the entrance, I focused on grounding myself in the reality of the outside world. The cold pavement pressed against the soles of my shoes, and the distant sound of car engines served as a reassuring reminder of normalcy. With each step I took, the grip of fear gradually loosened, and I began to feel like I was emerging from a nightmare. I turned my gaze skyward, searching for a celestial distraction to pull my thoughts away from the horrors I'd witnessed. The moon hung in the sky like a guardian against the darkness, casting a soft, ethereal glow that soothed my frayed nerve. Stars twinkled overhead, their distant glimmers reminding me that there was still beauty to be found in the world. As I continued to walk, I became aware of my surroundings in a way I hadn't before. The rustling of leaves, the distant hum of traffic, the echo of footsteps on the pavement. These sounds formed a symphony of normalcy that gradually washed away the residual unease. My pulse began to slow, and the edge of panic began to dull. Glancing back at the McDonald's one last time, I saw that the figure had receded from the window. Whether it was a trick of the light or a deliberate act, I couldn't be certain. But I knew that I needed distance, both physical and mental, from that place of darkness. The realization that I had escaped the clutches of that otherworldly entity filled me with a mix of relief and lingering apprehension. With newfound determination, I quickened my pace. The glow of a 24-hour convenience store up ahead beckoned like a beacon of safety, a place where the ordinary and mundane held sway over the supernatural. As I reached its entrance, the jingle of a bell announced my arrival, and the warm, fluorescent lighting enveloped me in a familiar embrace. Though the encounter at the McDonald's would forever haunt my memories, I had emerged from that night's ordeal with a newfound appreciation for the everyday. I had walked a fine line between the realms of the known and the unknowable, and it was a reminder that the world held secrets far beyond our comprehension. As I walked further into the convenience store, I resolved to leave that eerie chapter behind, hoping that the next dawn would bring a renewed sense of normalcy to my life. That night changed me in ways I couldn't fully comprehend. Every time I passed by a McDonald's, the familiar golden arches that once symbolized comfort and familiarity now carried a haunting weight, an indelible reminder of the otherworldly horrors that had unfolded within. The memory of that evening haunted my dreams. The images of the dimly lit dining area, the flickering lights, and the unsettling figures forever etched into my mind. The sensation of being watched, of unseen eyes fixated on my every move, had become a permanent presence, an echo of the terror I had experienced. The entity's whispers lingered in my thoughts, a sinister echo that defied interpretation. Its words, a blend of ancient languages and incomprehensible tones, resonated within me, evoking a sense of dread that transcended language itself. The weight of its words pressed upon me, a constant reminder of the abyssal depths from which it had emerged. As I walked through the busy streets and went about my daily life, I couldn't shake the feeling that the boundaries between our world and the supernatural were far thinner than I had ever imagined. The once clear line that separated reality from the unknown had blurred, leaving me on the precipice of understanding forces that defied logic and reason. In the dead of night, when darkness enveloped everything, I found myself staring at my reflection in the mirror, half expecting to see the hollow-eyed figure that had haunted me. Each creak of the floorboards, each rustle of the wind sent shivers down my spine, a reminder that the terrors I'd encountered that fateful night could still reach out from the depths of my memories. The incident had awakened a new awareness within me, an understanding that there were forces beyond our comprehension, lurking in the shadows, waiting to be unleashed. The mundanity of everyday life had been stripped away, revealing a hidden layer of reality that existed just beyond our sight. As I share this harrowing tale, I do so with a mixture of trepidation and a sense of duty. The warning embedded within the narrative is clear. There are places and times when the veil between our reality and the unknown becomes dangerously thin. To dismiss the existence of the supernatural is to ignore the depths of our own ignorance, leaving us vulnerable to the unseen horrors that lie in wait. In the end, I can only hope that my account serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder that the ordinary can swiftly turn extraordinary, and the line between safety and terror can be crossed with a single step. As I gaze upon the familiar golden arches, I am reminded that some truths lie hidden beneath the surface, waiting for the intrepid to unveil the horrors that reside in the shadows.